254 based on the road. Can I get an officer out there right now, please?
I'm sorry, what address?
I'm an officer right now, and somebody's trying to steal my mother-in-law's vehicle.
Okay, where at?
254 David Howell Road. I need an officer out right now. I'm an officer of the officer of Knoxville City Police Department.
Alright.
I have somebody at gunpoint trying to steal a vehicle.
What's your name?
My name is Tanya Jameson, and I'm the person that was on the other end of that gun. I was in a small town outside of Knoxville, picking up a car that I purchased the week before. I was putting the license plate on the car. I told the owner that I'd be there that day, that afternoon, to pick it up. She was out cutting the grass. Her son-in-law sees me putting the license plate on the car, thinks I'm trying to steal it. So he comes out, gun drawn, ready to basically shoot me. And so at the moment, I didn't realize he wasn't even talking to me. I hear him say, I'm an off-duty officer, and I've got somebody at gunpoint, and my back is to him. And I'm like, oh, that's me. He has me at gunpoint. And so I get up, stand up really slowly from putting the tags on. I've got the screwdriver in my hand. It's about half the size of this microphone. And I turn around as slow as possible. Don't want to do anything that's going to startle him. And as I'm turning around, I'm thinking in my head, this is how black people die.
Every day.
This is how Philando Castile died. And so I'm thinking as I turn around, I don't want to scare him, but I know right here in my bag is the registration for the car. The license plate I'm putting on the car is registered in my name. So I tell him, I was like, hey, I know how this looks. I said, but I bought the car from Miss Brenda last Friday, paid her cash. I said, I've got the tags. I said, the registration's right here in my bag. I have the keys in my pocket. I said, I'm not stealing the car. So he looks at me and he's shaking his head and he's like, nah. And I was like, no, listen, I bought the car from Miss Brenda. I said, like Brenda Gamble. And he's just like, no. And I said, okay. I said, the registration's in my bag. You can just, look in my bag and get the registration and you'll see the car is registered in my name. He's like, no, just stay there. So the 911 person told him at that point that he needed to put the gun down before the deputies arrived. So he finally puts the gun down, and so I finally put my arms down. And I said, do you mind if I put the screwdriver on the bumper? And he's like, yeah. And I said, okay. And so then I just kind of sit in the bumper, and he's like, just go over there and sit down. And so I said, listen. Actually, I think at that point I got tired of trying to convince him. Sheriff's deputies arrive, and I explain to the sheriff's deputy what's going on. He tells his story. I say my version. He still doesn't believe me. And I'm like, listen, I've got the keys in my pocket. If you run the tag is going to come back to me. And I said, the registration is in my bag. And so the deputy looks at me and he's like, well, give me the keys. So I reach in my pocket, give him the keys. He opens the door, goes through the car, goes to the glove compartment, and he's like, oh, these are her personal stuff. Let me take this out. And I'm like, so can I go? And so they're still basically holding me there. So this basically turns into about an hour-long ordeal. They don't let me go until the guy who's holding me at gunpoint, he's married to the woman I bought the car from. His wife calls him and says, yeah, Mom sold the car to some lady in North Carolina. And so they're like, oh, sorry, we've had a lot of break-ins in the neighborhood. That's what they always say, right? So we had a lot of break-ins in the neighborhood. And I'm like, dude, you're running around holding people at gunpoint. I'm really thinking you haven't had a lot of break-ins in the neighborhood. So I'm driving back to Charlotte. It's like a 2.5-hour drive. So the first person I called my mom, telling her what happens, and she's just like, are you kidding? Are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, right? Like, only me. This always gonna happen to me. So I'm just driving back, and I'm just like, of course this happens to me. And then I get mad about it. I'm like, wait, why does it have to happen to me? So I post, I want to tell you that I pulled over and arrested everybody. So I post on social media what happened. And so my friends just start blowing up, my phone, making sure I'm okay. And then they're like, can we talk about this? Can we post it on social media? So it circulates. And then by the time I get back to Charlotte, it's huge and it's blown up. And fast forward, I filed the complaint with the police department. The chief does come to Charlotte from Tennessee to explain to me why they're going to let the police officer off. And what's most telling about this story, It's not just that he held me at gunpoint for no reason, but the fact that I got a copy of the Internal Affairs investigation, so I read through it. I'm a former reporter, so I understand how questions are being asked, and how questions are being asked to basically lead both of us in a certain direction. So I look at the transcript of the actual interviews, and so the officer has laid out in his head, when he sees me across the street and I was dropped off by an unmarked taxi, he's laid out in his head that, number one, he thought I was a black teenage boy, so therefore it's okay to hold me at gunpoint. And then number two, that the car that dropped me off was a getaway car, and they were waiting around the corner to come back and do whatever. But they're waiting around the corner, they're lying in wait, and so I'm trying to steal the car. So he's made all this up in his head, so of course, they clear them. Yeah, so there was nothing wrong with the officer, and I continue to appeal it, and life starts to go on, and I'm talking to a friend of mine, probably like within the same year, later on that year. This happened in the spring, and then probably maybe December, and I was telling him, I was like, you know, I replay that day like every day in my head. I was like, I just go over it over and over again. I'm like, you know, what could I have done differently not to be in that situation? Or if I had reacted differently, you know, what would have happened? And she was like, you know, you need to see a therapist. And I was like, for real? She was like, yeah. She was like, you got a little PTSD action going on. You need to see a therapist. And I didn't, and I never even thought about it. I never even thought about how trauma, discrimination, even implicit bias, straight up bias, really impacts us and impacts me. So when Joe invited me to come and moderate this and have a conversation with you, I was just like, yeah, because it's something that we never think of. So I'd like to invite the other performers to come on up, and let's all have a conversation about just discrimination and bias and how it impacts us in our daily lives.